They never look at you when you mop a lobby floor. I learned that in my first week at Meridian Tower, and I never resented it the way a younger man might have. By the time I took the custodian job, I had already spent 32 years being looked at very carefully, blueprints spread across conference tables, clients in tailored suits waiting on my every word, engineers deferring to me on load-bearing calculations for buildings that would outlast all of us. When my wife, Carol, passed 8 years ago and left me alone with a 5-year-old boy named Danny, I found I had lost the appetite for all that careful looking. The tower job was steady, quiet, and mine. It kept the lights on and left me evenings with my son. That was the whole equation. Meridian Tower was a beautiful building. I say that without false modesty, because I designed it. Poured 2 years of my life into those structural drawings back in my firm days. Cantilevered atrium, the curved glass curtain wall, the foundation work that let it stand on what had been a difficult clay-heavy lot. My name was on the cornerstone, if anyone cared to read it. Nobody in that building ever had occasion to check. They saw a man in gray work clothes pushing a cart past the elevator bank, and that was the sum total of what they needed to know about me. For 3 years, Miss Claire Ashworth walked past me at 7:45 every morning without a glance. I don't say it as a grievance. She was the kind of driven that fills a room before you've registered the face. Always moving at the pace of someone whose minutes cost more than most people's hours, phone at her ear or a thin laptop folder tucked under her arm, heels clipping the marble I had just polished to a mirror. She ran the largest consulting firm in the building. She made decisions before breakfast that other people would spend a week agonizing over. I admired the efficiency of her, even from the edges of a room she didn't know I occupied. Then one Thursday in October, Danny's school had a professional development day, and my usual sitter was sick. He was 7 years old, and he thought Meridian Tower was the greatest place on earth. I set him up in my utility room off the east corridor with a chapter book, a sandwich, and strict instructions. Stay put. Don't touch the electrical panel. Don't talk to strangers. That last one lasted about 11 minutes. I know because I was recalking the men's room on the third floor when my radio crackled with a call from the front desk asking if I was the custodian with a little boy. Because there was a child in the main lobby having a conversation with Ms. Ashworth that showed no signs of ending. I came down the stairs fast. What I found stopped me at the edge of the lobby. Danny was sitting cross-legged on the polished floor. The floor I had done that morning, looking up at Claire Ashworth, who was crouched down in her charcoal blazer with her laptop folder balanced on her knee, listening to him with an expression I had never seen on her face in 3 years of mornings. Open. Still. But why does the ceiling go like that? Danny was asking, pointing up at the curved glass atrium overhead. It looks like it's falling, but it isn't. I genuinely don't know, she said. My dad would know. He knows everything about buildings. She glanced up at that exact moment and saw me standing at the corridor entrance. Something shifted in her face, not embarrassment exactly, more like recalibration. Is this yours? She said, and there was almost a warmth in it. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. He was supposed to stay in the back. He wasn't a bother. She stood, smoothing her blazer, and I watched her make the small social calculation that people in her position always make when they realize they've been caught being human. She decided to stay human. He asked me what the building was made of. I told him glass and steel. He told me that was a bad answer. Danny nodded seriously. It is. I reached down and took his hand. Come on, bud. Wait, Danny said. And he looked at me with that particular 7-year-old certainty that is impossible to argue with. Did you build this building, Dad? The lobby was quiet. Miss Ashworth was still standing there. I helped design it, I said. A long time ago. I knew it. He said it with the satisfaction of a man settling a long-running dispute. She was looking at me now. Not the way she looked through me in the mornings. Actually looking. You designed Meridian Tower? Structural engineering. I ran the firm that handled the load-bearing work and the foundation system, long before I worked here. A beat of silence. The kind that has weight in it. Walt Greer, she said slowly, as if she were trying to locate the name in a room inside her head. The cornerstone. I nodded. She looked up at the atrium, at the sweep of glass, and the subtle taper of the steel ribs I had spent 6 months calculating to carry, the cantilever load without a single visible support column at ground level. Then she looked back at me. The recalibration on her face had become something quieter, genuinely quiet. I've worked in this building for 4 years, she said. I've given tours of this lobby to clients and told them it was the most elegant structure in the city. She paused. I never looked at the cornerstone. Most people don't. I walked past you every morning. You did. She didn't apologize with a flood of words the way guilty people do. She was too precise for that. She just looked at me steadily for a moment and said that was my loss. I appreciated the economy of it. Danny, satisfied that justice had been served, announced he was hungry, and the moment broke open into something easier. She laughed, a real one, surprised out of her, and I saw the woman underneath the driven executive, the one who crouched on a polished lobby floor, to listen to a 7-year-old talk about ceiling geometry. I thought she might be lonelier than she let anyone see. She asked if we'd eaten. I told her Danny had a sandwich in the back. She said there was a cafe across the street that did a very good grilled cheese, and she had 40 minutes before her next call, if we were willing. I looked at Danny, who had already located the door. We sat in a window booth with a clear view of the tower. From across the street, it looked the way I always hoped it would. Clean lines, the atrium glass catching the October light, the whole structure carrying itself with a quiet confidence. I hadn't sat across from it like a stranger in years, Danny explained to her. In some detail, the structural principles of the sandwiches he had seen me build at home. Load distribution, she called it, catching my eye across the table with the ghost of a smile. She was sharper than I expected and warmer. She asked me how I'd gone from running a structural engineering firm to a custodian position at the building I'd designed, and I told her about Carol, about the choice I'd made to be home in the evenings, about how the work kept me close to something I'd made with my hands and my mind, and that I found that satisfying in a way I hadn't expected. She listened the way she'd listened to Danny, without agenda, without her phone. Do you miss the work? She asked. Some days. But I was never going back full time. Danny needed more of me than that life had room for. She was quiet a moment. My father was a surgeon. He was very good at it. She set her coffee cup down with a careful precision. I barely knew him. We didn't say anything after that for a little while. We didn't need to. Danny fell asleep on the ride home that evening, his head against the car window, the city lights moving over his face. He had talked nonstop for the first 20 minutes. Ms. Ashworth said this. Ms. Ashworth said that. She was really nice. Dad, did you know she didn't know your name was on the building? And then he dropped off mid-sentence the way children do, all at once and completely. I drove and thought about the 3 years of mornings, the marble floor, the cart, the click of heels that never slowed. I didn't feel cheated by any of it. The building was still standing. I had made something true and lasting, and it was still doing its job, the same as me. That was enough. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't matter, being seen. The next morning at 7:45, I heard the heels on the marble. I kept my attention on the cart. Then the footsteps slowed. Stopped. Morning, Walt. 2 words. I looked up. Morning, Miss Ashworth. She nodded once, the nod of someone who means it, and kept moving toward the elevator. Behind me, I could hear the building doing what it had always done, holding the weight of everything placed upon it, steady and quiet and unrecognized. Same as me for a long time, not anymore.